Taoiseach, yesterday's budget was strong in rhetoric and somewhat poor in substance. And there are many issues that one could discuss, such as the lack of any initiatives in small to medium-sized enterprise, the lack of transparency on the health estimate, the water charges and so on, and the lack of a substantial public investment programme. But I want to focus this morning on the tax changes that were brought in yesterday. And without question, the tax changes are very unfair, and they disproportionately benefit the wealthy and discriminate against low-paid workers. So a worker earning €17,500 a year will only gain €174 for that year, and that's not including the water tax. Whereas somebody over 70,000 or someone on 150,000 will actually get €746 of a benefit. Now, we live in a low-wage economy, and there are about 666,000 people out there who are earning between €10,000 and €30,000. And most developed societies are moving towards low-wage economies. And governments have to intervene in a positive, discriminatory manner to improve people who are on very, very low incomes. A couple, for example, with only one earning on 41,000 will still only get 174, whereas again a single person over 70,000 will get €746. And that's not to mention at all the impact of the water charges, which by definition again will impact on low-paid workers more and low-paid working families. And so, in relation to the tax changes, Taoiseach, I want to ask you that basic question: do you think it's actually fair that someone on 100,000 plus is benefiting by €740 or €60, whereas someone below 30,000 is only benefiting by €174? Is that basically a fair way to do business? And the second question: can you tell me what the net figure you will now get as a result of the imposition of water charges in revenue terms?
Taoiseach. I think we signalled very clearly the mandate given to government was to fix our finances and get our country working. As far back as early summer, we indicated very clearly that the priority in respect of tax was to deal with the crushing burden of 52% imposed on workers through a combination of dealing with the tax band, the USC, PRSI and so on. Now, you asked me, is it fair? I think it's very fair to say, Deputy Martin, that government set out with a specific objective of reducing that burden so that the tax changes being made over the next 3 years will result themselves in about 15,000 extra jobs being created over and above what might normally come from growth. Now, that's very different than the 52% tax burden that was imposed indeed by your own government, which made this country uncompetitive, unattractive, and not fair in the sense of the proportion of tax that people had to pay, at a time when you allowed borrowing to go to 15 billion, with rising interest rates, immigration out of control, and unemployment falling off the cliff. So what we've said here is that the changes in the tax system, the reduction in the band, the reduction in the rate, the increase in the band, is designed in its own way over 3 years to be able to create 15,000 extra jobs. And the path out of unemployment and the path out of poverty is job creation. So this is the start of a 3-year programme of tax changes designed to do that. That's an entirely different matter than the perception that's being put abroad that the tax changes were in some way related to the issue of the provision of Irish water and water for business, for people and for consumers. We said very early on, what we need to do here is change the tax system to reduce the burden of tax on people. And clearly we've taken out serious numbers now, an extra 80,000 out of the USC at the lower level. For those who still have a tax liability, there is a reduction in the USC at the 2 lower levels, and in the first budget that Minister Noonan brought in, there were 330,000 taken out of the USC altogether. So the increase in the tax band will take many thousands more out of the higher rate of tax liability altogether. So obviously, beyond 70,000, between 30 and 70 has been the area where people really have had to pay all of the sacrifices, all of the charges, and it's in there that the impact of the priority of the budget has been. The tax changes, Deputy Martin, are the first of 3 years to bring about a reduction in the rate of tax and other adjustments that will create 15,000 jobs over and above anything else that occurs in the normal way.
Deputy Martin, 1 minute.
You didn't answer the specific question I put to you. Is it fair that someone in 18,000 gets €174 a year before they have to pay the water charges, and someone in 100,000 gets over €700, €746? That's the basic proposition I put to you, and asked you a very simple question: is that fair, Taoiseach? Is that fair? And I asked you a second question: what's the net revenue figure you're now expecting out of the water charges regime? You didn't answer that. But coming back to the first question, that there are over 660,000 people earning between 10,000 and 30,000 euro in our society today. Now, you've taken a deliberate decision to essentially ignore them. That's what you decided in the budget yesterday. Because when you put in water charges and so on, they will not be better off as a result of this budget. They'll be worse off in terms of all the charges. That is the bottom line, Taoiseach. So you took a political decision and you took a principled decision to ignore people who are earning below 30,000, essentially.
Thank you.
And you did so to favour people earning over 70,000, over 100,000, over 140,000. That's what you decided to do, Taoiseach. And do you actually think it is fair?
Thank you.
That you did it in that manner? That someone on a very low income gets 174 and someone on a quite high income gets 764?
Taoiseach.
Well, I've already pointed out to you the plan that we set out to change the burden of 52% tax imposed on people. The Deputy Martin's aware that this is the first step in this budget and the next two to deal with that 52% level of tax being reduced. The increase in the threshold of the at which USC becomes payable at 12,000 will take a further 80,000 out of the charge altogether, which benefits lower paid workers, on top of the over 300,000 that were removed in 2012. That's over 400,000 who have no liability for USC at all. Clearly, there'll be a further 33,000 people who are removed from the higher rate of income tax altogether by the increase in the band introduced yesterday. And obviously, the 1% cut in the 52% tax rate will benefit the 635,000 middle income earners that are in there. You're aware that over 70,000, 2 new rates of USC have been introduced. So while everybody benefits from the reduction in the tax rate, for those over 70,000 and for those over 100,000, that's set aside by a higher increase in USC. So clearly, the emphasis here has been on lower paid workers, on middle income workers from 70,000 down, and that's where the priority has been.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
So for two middle earning public servants, the saving here is about 100 euro per month. So the issue, obviously, the billing process for Irish Water will have commenced from October. Clearly, there'll be a surge of applications to be registered before the end of October, and clearly, until you have the absolute numbers who are registered for the household charges as a consequence, you can't determine what the actual level of income will be from Irish Water until the bills are out there and until they begin to be paid.
Thank you.